My name is Ranger Kidwell Ross. I'm the director of the World Sweeping Association. If any of you are involved in sweeping in any way, I encourage you to look us up. That internet thing will find us quite easily. I'm in my 33rd year of participating with power sweeping contractors and teaching them how to run their business better, more profitably, and so forth. I'm the editor of World Sweeper also, which is the Earth's largest power sweeping resource. One of the things that exceptional leaders do is they overcome any kind of adversity that gets in their way, and they plow through. But that's just a very small item that they do. And this morning we have with us Randy Goruk, who is absolutely top-notch in showing you how to run your business better, more effectively, and with leadership skills you may not even know you had, but you do. So with that, I'd like you to show that everybody's awake and that their hands all work, to give a rousing welcome to Randy Goruk.
Thanks, Dad. Now, Ranger and I have never met until this morning. He called me and told me that his organization was sponsoring this session. And as part of the sponsorship, he wanted to video record it. And I said that was okay. So I'm thinking you're just going to video record me, not necessarily the audience. So
sure.
You all don't have to worry about it too much. Okay. What are we going to do here this morning? We're not going to repeat what we did yesterday twice. What I'd like to do is provide you some insights into what exceptional leaders do every day. Explain why those are best practices and how you could adapt them, how you could develop them. Sort of the activity, the why, and the how. Now, I plan to do that based on my experiences. I'm not a textbook guy. I don't necessarily have a PhD in leadership. I just have good practical experience, and I have the opportunity to work with other great leaders in this country who are in the construction industry. My background is construction. When I was 18 years old, I was running a rake on one of the paving crews in Canada. And that inspired me to become into construction. I have a 27-year career in construction. And my clients today, in my leadership development business, they come from the construction industry for the most part. So what we're going to talk about today, again, comes from practical experience. We're going to talk about some bad habits and what credibility killers they can be. Because as a leader, you always want to have and earn credibility. But there are some things that you do or can do that can ruin that credibility just like that. We're going to talk about what some of those are and what you can do about it. At the end, we're going to have a coach's corner. My hope today is to send you home with a few nuggets that will help you become an even better leader. Because there's nobody in here that says, well, I really need to learn something about leadership because I'm not very good at it. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is you just want to pick up a nugget or two. And you've been here now, what, for 2 days? Or 3 days for some people? The fire hose has been right in your face the whole time, I'm sure. And you just don't know how much more can I take or how much more can I learn, because it all becomes redundant after a while, perhaps. But I'm here to help you. Now, in your handout, there's a handout. I want you to know, last night I had a revelation. And that revelation was very simple. I did a session yesterday morning. How many people were in that first session in the morning? It was 24 hours ago, so we've got a lot of folks here. How many then came to my second session? So there's a lot of people here. So for people, how many of you are this like your third time with me in 2 days? Okay. I chose to change my presentation around for you because there was some repeat information in here that I didn't want to I want to give you more value. So you're going to see just a snippet of some things that we talked about in the since yesterday. But for the most part, this is all going to be new material for you as well. Which means then the handout isn't necessarily going to be able to relate. Typically what I'll do is I'll create a handout, and then I do it so that you can fill in some blanks, so that you could follow along, so that you can be interactive with me, so that when you leave here, you've got things that you remember. However, this handout isn't going to correspond with these slides. So what I thought I would do is I would just email you a copy of these slides. So that way you can stay engaged with me, because there's some interactive parts in here that I want you to stay engaged. You can take notes if you wish, but you don't have to, because I'm going to just send you the slides. All you have to do is just give me a business card or a piece of paper and just write your email address on it, what leaders do, and I'll do it. For those parts that I omitted from yesterday's session, when I send you the slides, I'm going to send you links to see the parts that will match up with your book, and they'll be in video format. Okay? Is that fair for everybody? I mean, are we cool with that? It's just, I just think I want to add value to everybody that's in this room. I've got some core assumptions that I want to make sure I put out there to say that, okay, first of all, if you're a leader in this room, and you probably already are exceptional, if not, we're going to make it even better. But I'm going to assume that all of you have unwavering character, because I believe that every leader must have unwavering character. If you don't have unwavering character, how can people trust you? How can people feel like they can connect with you? I believe that unwavering character comes from within, and it's a core competency, a core requirement of every leader. Do y'all know Home Depot? In 2009, do the names Johnson, Robinson, and Tesfitch mean anything to you? It's been 10 years, I know. But Johnson, Robinson, and Tesfitch were senior managers with the Home Depot company. And they had a program that benefited them personally with their vendors, or to get shelf space. So they got very rich on the side. They went to jail. Sometimes we will get exposed to situations that people will present to us. And all I got to tell you is unwavering character. Just remember that, because you have to have integrity. If you don't, it will eventually catch up to you, just like the Johnson, Robinson, Tesfitch. And it's a great story if you get a chance to read about it. I believe in this because it is part of my core values that came from my upbringing. My father, my late father, he worked, blue-collar guy, worked 42 years for one organization. And then after he retired, he didn't retire, he worked another 18 years for another organization. In his 18 years, he was a security guard at the horse track in our hometown. And as the security guard at the horse track, you can either be security with people or at the horses or at the stables. My father chose to be the security guy at the stable, so that when the jockeys came in, or the horse owners came in, or the doctors and the veterinarians came in, he would let them into the racetrack. One day he's in the lunchroom and he sees on the floor a wad of money. And he bent down. He was the only guy in the lunchroom. He bent down, picked it up. There's no cameras in this lunchroom. So my father, being a blue-collar guy for his entire life, probably could have used this cash, but he chose not to keep it because he had character. He handed it in to the office, and then the owner, who was doing a deal on the horse, now don't get me, I don't judge people. It's, you do what you want, buying and selling horses, however you choose to do it. But he did, and it turned out it was somebody who he knew. He was one of the owners he knew. And the point is that had my father decided to keep it, someday somebody would say, "Hey, Mikey, I lost $7,000. Did you see anybody, know anybody, you hear anything?" And here's my dad with it in his bank account or under his mattress. You can't live with yourself. So my point for you is I'm assuming you all have unwavering character because it's the main ingredient, the core ingredient that you need to have if you're going to be exceptional. Another assumption I'm going to make is that you care about others. You care about people. You genuinely care about people. Care about their lives, care about their families, care about their well-being, care about their development. You care about them all of the time. You think about them all of the time. And these are the people that are doing the work for you because you don't do anything as the leader. You know? I think you're chuckling because it's probably a little bit true. I've always said that as a leader, the less I do, the more I get done. The less I do, the more I get done. If I get down in the weeds, I can't do much, except dealing with weeds. So you got to care about your people. I also assume that everybody here embraces accountability, because as leaders, we are accountable. We're always accountable for our actions, our behavior, and the actions and behavior of our company. My old boss taught me that, he said, Randy, you can delegate responsibility, but you cannot delegate accountability. And that just is so true. Think of California, no, is it California? Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Anybody from California here? Okay. The CEO recently lost her job because of accountability. The forest fires that started in California, am I saying this right? Started because trees grew. They touched these electric lines in the forest. Caused sparks caused fires. People were injured, killed, damaged. Well, there's a program for clearing and cutting the trees. It wasn't that she was going to go do it. It was someone else's job. Someone else was responsible. But you can delegate that, but she's still accountable because it didn't get done. It's unfair in life, I'm sure we'd all agree sometimes. But I think you got to embrace accountability. And the last one is you have the technical skills to do the job that you do. You know your industry. You know what machinery you operate. You know all the stuff that you need to know to run your business. So here's some thoughts about what I'm going to cover today and what exceptional leaders do every day. One of the things that leaders do every day is they think. They take time to think. And I'm going to show you a little bit more detail on that. But they think about everything. At least they should be thinking about their business, their people, their competition. The other thing leaders do, great exceptional leaders do, is they listen. They think, they listen, they communicate. Fourth thing is they intentionally develop others. And the fifth thing is they do is invest in self-development. In a nutshell, this is what I see that great leaders do, assuming they got that solid foundation we just reviewed a few seconds ago. So my hope is to show you, to get you to think on how you can be a better thinker, better listener, better communicator, how you can develop others, and how you can invest in your own development. This quote from John Quincy Adams, or at least he gets credit for it. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. It doesn't say anything about if you're really good at this, bidding jobs, you're really good at negotiating. It's about inspiring others to dream more, for people to learn more, do more. You're an exceptional leader. So the first thing, let's talk about activity number one. We've got a few activities. I believe firmly that you should schedule time to think and plan. And how you schedule time to think and plan is you make an appointment with yourself. This is a technique I've used for decades. You have on your calendar to be in this room at this very time today. You blocked off time to be at this conference. You block off time to visit with customers. You block off time to talk to some of your team. I want you to think about, if you aren't already doing this, blocking some time on your calendar for a meeting with yourself. When you do that, you shut off all the electronics and all the distractions, and you think. And I'm going to give you some ideas on what you can think about in a minute. By being able to think and plan, this allows you to become more proactive and less reactive. Because isn't that true that we spend a lot of our time just reacting to situations? If something happens, we got to go fix it. Something's not working right, we got to go get involved. We spend a lot of our time reacting. And I'm saying, let's all work towards becoming more proactive versus reactive. Taking the time to think allows you to do that. I believe that you can avoid crises by solving problems before they occur, which allows more time to focus on other priorities. Just think about that. If you could, think about a hurricane on your horizon, and you can anticipate it and be proactively go and tend to it before it becomes a problem for you. You know, maybe it's as simple as, are we cutting down all of the trees around the power lines in this area? It just allows you to think. You avoid crisis. I call it thinkership. Thinkership for me is the practice of mindful preparedness. But, you know, to do this, you ask yourself some questions. You're sitting in your office, you're thinking, hey, what's one thing I'm not doing that I should be doing? Just a great question you ask yourself to think. In fact, I'll give credit to a client of mine who I have done a lot of work with over the years. And I went to visit him. He was one of the senior executives, and he said, Randy, I know you're doing a lot of work with our manufacturing folks. You're doing some work with our sales folks. You're doing our distribution group and some of our executives. But tell me, what's one thing we're not doing that we should be doing? Wasn't that a great question? That causes Randy to think, and I was able to reply, and he said, that's awesome, and we went around and did a few things a little bit differently. But you got to ask that question to yourself. And how about this one? What's one habit you need to break to be more effective leader? We all have some bad habits. Well, not all of us. But we're going to cover some in a few minutes, but I want to make sure you understand that it gives you an opportunity to think about habits. In your meeting with yourself, whether you schedule it for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, or 60 minutes, it doesn't matter. Whatever time you can afford, become obsessively reflective. Obsessively reflective is all about thinking about what just happened, or if I had to do it over again, how would I do it differently? What I just said. That meeting we were just in didn't go as well as it should have, and what could I have done differently to become more effective in that meeting? Being obsessively reflective just allows you to get better. It helps you become exceptional. Because next time, you'll be better prepared. Next time, you will have better results. You ask yourself a question like this. If we had the chance to do last month over, what 3 things could we have done differently to achieve better results? Or how about this one? What's one decision I didn't make that I should have made? And why didn't I make it? Or turn it around. What's one decision I did make last quarter? This is the wrong decision. If I had to do it over again, how would I do it differently? Obsessively reflective. And we want to develop the habit of anticipation. You know that if you go home from this conference and you have a car at an airport, and next thing you know, you got a flat tire, you know what to do. You're prepared. You anticipated this problem. You have all the equipment to fix it, or you have a AAA card, or you do something. But developing the habit of anticipation in your meeting with yourself when you're thinking is an awesome trait to have. Because then you can think about things that may happen. Things that, what if this happened? What if that happened? What would I do about it? So, anticipation. What are 3 opportunities that, if I pursue, would grow our business in the next 18 months? As an example. And what action should we take to capture them, as an example. So here's where we're going to have a little bit of interaction. I put together a bit of a checklist, and when you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, it's a little bit difficult to present your checklist, but I've tried it this way. Just imagine for a second, you've scheduled a meeting with yourself, and you have an hour. Uninterrupted time to think and plan. The first thing you want to think, not the first thing, but one of the things you'll think about is maybe your business plan. I'm assuming everybody has a business plan. Assuming you have a business plan. How is the business plan going? Is that the thing that we prepare in the fall and put up on the bookshelf for the rest of the year? Or do you have an active plan? And then you question yourself or ask questions about your business plan and whether or not you're on track, whether or not you have to change things, whether or not you have to modify things. Another thing you can think about is your goals. You have business goals, you have personal goals. How are you doing? How are you tracking? Financially, sales, whatever the goals are, it gives you an opportunity to slow down and think about them and then what you might need to do to make some readjustments. How about the market? How about the market? Paying close attention to the market. Remember, y'all remember 2007, 8, 9? Ugly, right? I remember clearly 2007 talking with a client of ours who is running a $250 million $250 million distribution business. And I said to him, I asked him a great question. If you knew in 6 months from now you'd be losing $1 million a month, what would you do about it today? Do you see what I'm doing with making somebody think? And unfortunately, he just didn't absorb the question. That's not possible, he says. That's not possible at all. We haven't lost money for whatever number of years. That's not going to happen. And I said, but no, I didn't say it was. I said, just think about it. And he refused to think. So 6 months later, he started to lose tons of money, and his 250 went down to 125, and his number of employees, his number of employees shrunk. And the point is, he then reacted to do the right things for the business. But he could have been more proactive, and if you were more proactive, he would have saved a ton of money that he lost by reacting versus being proactive. So you get a chance to just think about the market. If you think the market's good for the next 12 months or 18 months, move on. Another topic. How about the economy? Kind of go together. The competition. What's the competition doing to you? Maybe you want to ask the question. If I were our competitor, what would I do to take business away from us? Isn't that a great question? If I were our competitor, what would I do to take business away from us? Or maybe take my key people. And when you have to take your key people, then wow, that would be terrible. Okay, your customers. You might have to slow down and think about your customers. Your different projects you got going on. Your employees. How about some problems that you have that are on the table that you need to solve? What problems could you avoid? See how difficult this is to put on a slideshow as a checklist? Create your own checklist. Time wasters. Let me ask you this. What would be the single biggest time waster in your world? Anybody?
Interruptions. People come in the office.
Slow down. Just give me a hand so I can see where you're at. Yes, sir.
People coming into your office.
Interruptions. So what can you do to deal with minimizing or eliminating interruptions? That's what you stop and think about. So, okay, so who interrupts me? Well, Kathy interrupts me, and Joe interrupts me the most. So you talk to Kathy and Joe and set an expectation with them about how you want to work together. If you let the revolving door come in and out of your office without no respect for your time, then that's your fault. You have the opportunity to fix that by recognizing it's a problem, and I can go about chatting with them, setting expectations, life will be better for a period of time, and then it's going to happen again. You know that. But just reset the expectation. How about another time waster that someone experiences? Yes. Tardiness? How does that tardiness waste your time?
People not being there on time, and then create people have to wait on other people.
People don't get there on time, so the rest of the crew or the rest of the team has to wait for them to get going. And that's wasting time, and that's costing money. There's sometimes there's reasons for tardiness. Sometimes you have to, again, reestablish or reset the expectation of and consequences for tardiness. But that's up to you. We can always blame the employee for being late, but the reality is you got to fix that. My point in all this is the time wasters you have, you can control them. You can fix them. You have to identify what they are and then go about in your meeting figuring out exactly what it is that you should do about it. Blind spots. How about blind spots? You ever stop and think about what are my blind spots? You ever ask people what they think your blind spots are? Do you think you have any blind spots? We all have a blind spot. We just don't know what it is because we're blind to it, I guess. But blind spots can get you in a lot of trouble. You agree with me? Have you experienced this lately, recently?
It's called second chances.
Second chances for you.
Hard.
Think about, if you're in your meeting thinking about things, and you're looking for a blind spot, you ask yourself, what's the one thing I'm missing that I should be paying attention to? And don't get me wrong, I'm no expert in the California fires, but the CEO could have been asking that question. Say, blind spot, blind spot. Man, I just don't know where we are with whatever that blind spot is. Then you go find out about it. It makes you much more exceptional. Red flags are similar. You ever get red flags? Okay. You ever get a red flag to the point where you think I got to terminate somebody? I had that happen with a 20-year veteran of our company. It's the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've had to do in my career. There was a red flag, but I chose to ignore it. Eventually, we had to terminate employment. And I asked my boss one time, I hate to say this, but I'm thinking of having to terminate Randy. And he said to me, if you start thinking that you have to terminate somebody, usually you're 3 to 6 months too late. And that's because we chose to ignore the red flags. When you meet with yourself, you have the opportunity to identify those red flags and then ultimately create a plan to do something about it. And leaders are always seeking change. So you have this checklist. And when you have the checklist about what you should think about, create your own checklist. These are some ideas. Yes, sir?
I wonder if you can explain more what you're talking about on blind spots.
Say that again?
Can you explain more about the blind spots? What you mean about the blind spots?
Sure. Blind spots. Let's say that a blind spot for you might be, not for you, but for somebody might be, they're not a very good listener. And people are giving them advice. People are sharing their opinions. And the blind spot is, yeah, but I'm not listening. And we'll get to cover listening in a few minutes. But it's a blind spot. I think I'm listening. I'm the owner of this company. I'm running this damn company. I'm not listening to people. That's a blind spot. You might have others. And there may be others. Anybody have another example you might want to throw out there as a potential blind spot?
Well, they could be insured, they could be costs. You could have a favorite vendor, but, you know.
That's a great point.
He's your favorite vendor and you're going out to lunch with him a couple times a week, but he could be costing you, $10,000, $20,000 a month because you don't want to interview other vendors because you like this guy.
That's a good one.
That's a great one. That's a very good one. Very expensive lunch. You got to throw a dinner in there too, for all your relatives and me. So another activity for leaders that are exceptional is to communicate. Now, communication. Communication. Would you agree with me that the single biggest problem with most organizations is communication? The single biggest problem with relationships is communication? So here, let's work on this one together. I say this: ineffective communication leads to fill in the blank. So I'm going to say ineffective communication leads to confusion. What say you? Now, some of you have been with me for, this is something we've covered already. Don't give out the answer, please. But what say you about fill in the blank? Ineffective communication leads to?
Tension.
Sorry?
Tension.
Yeah. Tension. Conflict. Anger. Yeah. What else does it lead to?
False expectations.
False expectations. You, sir.
Failure.
It leads to failure on all fronts. Productivity, perhaps. Productivity. Profitability. Project completion. Lost customers because we didn't quite do what we said we would do because we didn't communicate effectively. Yeah. A couple more.
Waste.
Waste. Yeah, lots of waste. You can't afford to have waste. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Arguments.
Arguments. Yeah, that argument's conflict, debate, I'm right, you're wrong, which then leads to a relationship challenge. The fact is, ineffective communication is something we can control. It really leads to nothing good, does it? Ineffective communication leads to nothing good. So what we have to do is become better at communicating. And one of the areas that we talked about yesterday was the art of asking great questions. Now, I'm not going to rehash the art of asking great questions, but I'm going to have if you want it, I'll share with you a short video, link to a short video, where you can grab the concept of great questions and take that with you at the end of this conference. And I'm not repeating it because of the number of people in here. But let's talk about listening. Listening. Who thinks they're a great listener in this room? Nobody? Nobody says, yeah, I'm a great listener? Well, then that just tells me if you want to be an exceptional leader, you've got to work on your listening. Here are some elements I think that are important to improving your listening skills. First of all, you need to be available to listen. If you're going to be available to listen, then people will give you something to listen about. If you're not available, you're always somewhere else, or you're tied up, or you're busy doing something else, it's just not something that people appreciate. You can't track you down, they can't listen to them. So you got to make yourself available to listen. Next thing you do is you got to make sure that you're approachable. Because if you're approachable, people will approach you. If you are cranky and miserable, they're not going to want to come near you. If they brought an issue to you last time and you scolded them, or say you handled it in a way that didn't represent good communication, they may not come back to you with another question because they remember what happened last time. You've got to be approachable. Approachable is all about radiating positivity. Being positive ripples through the organization. Being negative or cranky ripples through the organization. For you to be a good listener, you have to be approachable. The third element is all about being present. How many of us sometimes aren't very present when we listen? That's better. Being present. Being present is a challenge for us because we got things going on in our mind, things that are happening, things that we just can't necessarily control. So we tend to not be present. But I want to give you a little bit of advice, or maybe not advice, I'll give you, I host a podcast. It's called the Leadership and Learning Podcast, and I have conversations with a variety of people, mainly high-level senior folks, subject matter experts. And if you know the company Boise Cascade, their CEO, his name is Tom Goruk. Tom, who's TC, as he's known, is a great guy. And he gave me this nugget from our conversation I'll share with you. He said, Randy, listening is not having a conversation in your head while the other person is talking. I mean, how brilliant is that? Listening is not having a conversation in your head while the other person is talking. And that's what we tend to do. So when we catch ourselves having the conversation in our head when the other person is talking, what can we do? If we realize at the end of they're finished saying what they're saying, what we have to do is say, could you shorten that up just a bit? I didn't get it all, shorten it up. Because sometimes somebody will go on, and we just don't want to interrupt them, but they go on, and we drift off. So a technique that you can use is just get somebody to shorten it up. Another one, of course, everybody uses is repeat what they said. Does anybody have any real good list techniques for how you can be more present? Take notes. Or is that rude? Eye contact. Yes, sir.
After they're done speaking, you repeat back to them.
Yeah, after they're done speaking, you repeat back what they said. And they say, no, you missed it. And they say, okay, well, give me the short version. But I tell you, I swear that this is, of all of the listening skills that we got to work on, is being present. And then, of course, you just have to listen.
Hi Joe, this is Tom. It's 9:40. I'm stuck at the Smithers project, and the generator isn't working. It's a Diamond Hedge Turbo 3 we bought from McLennan's on Highway 806. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I do know that we bought it on the 14th of September, my daughter Jessica's birthday. I need you to bring me the old faithful Briggs and Stratton we've got in the shop because I've got concrete coming at 2:30. And I'm going to be shorthanded because Jamie never showed up again. I need you to get here before 2, or we're going to have 12 guys standing around doing nothing. Don't call me back because I'll be tied up with John. Thanks.
How many of you had a conversation in your head while you're listening to this? Don't. So, who calls?
John,
No.
or he tied up with John.
Jamie.
Tom called. What project was he stuck at? No. Smithers project. Where was McClellan's? Highway 806. Jessica's birthday? September 14th. You're going to be late with that one. What time is concrete coming? It's not here 2 o'clock, here 2:30. It's 2:30.
Was it Briggs and Stratton?
It was?
You hung your hat on that one, didn't you? Okay, that's it. Listen, this website, esl-lab.com, is a website for helping people to learn to speak English. And I used it with a client of mine who was having a hard time with listening skills. Once we got on this website, which is free, you can listen to an audio clip similar to that. And when you listen to the audio clip, then you scroll down and there's questions. Who called, Jessica's birthday, all that stuff. And then you get a score. And if you don't achieve 100, then maybe you need to continue to work on your listening skills. So it's a place you can practice. It's a place you can send people to who need to practice. It's an awesome website. It's free. How many of you do this? Intentionally develop others today. Intentionally develop others. Put your hand in. Okay, very good. So we've got maybe 10% of the folks here do a good job of intentionally developing others. Let me give you a couple of thoughts on this. I start with the premise that the function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. So if you have an action plan to produce more leaders, here are just some questions you can ask yourself. Who will you help grow into an exceptional leader? How much time of your time will you commit to the development? What skills need developing? What attributes, characteristics, or qualities need refinement? What actions and behaviors need improving? What's the timeline, timetable for development? How will you measure improvement? A couple of things I think you must do to be an exceptional leader is you must recognize if your team is successful, you become successful. That's the only way you'll be successful. You must make sure everyone on your organization, within reason, should have an individual development plan. Because they want to grow professionally too. They want to advance in their career too. You can help them. You can help them by having an individual development plan. On that individual development plan, you could have just one thing, just one area where that person would like to improve and get better. Don't have any more than 3. And then just got to make sure that when you do training, that the training you do is effective. Sometimes we'll do training of folks and we find out that it doesn't stick. It doesn't work very well. And it doesn't work very well because people learn differently. Some people will learn visually, some people will learn hands-on, and some people will learn, what's another way they can learn? Visually? Well, they just, hear it. So, just make sure that when you're doing your training, that it's training that's going to stick with your guys. Give people feedback regularly, continuously. How are they doing? Make them know, have them know that you love what they're doing. Have them know that you appreciate what they're doing. Give them feedback on a regular basis. Mentoring. How many of you mentor somebody today, sort of on an official basis? So there's 3 or 4. Talk to me about you as a mentor first. Or would you prefer to talk about somebody who's mentoring you? What do you get out of it?
When I'm mentoring somebody, I have to make sure that I'm clear on myself. So when I'm mentoring to him, I'm getting as much as he's getting, or her. And the end result is we're both learning the same thing.
All right, so what you're saying is that it's kind of a collaborative effort. You want them to get what they are looking for, and you want to make sure you provide it. Did I say that right?
Yeah, all in one.
Yeah. Mentoring is a great way to develop people. And to do it in a formal way is really important, I think. And I think that tell me, who has a mentor today in this room? You, sir, tell us about your mentoring experience. Tell us what goes on.
It feels kind of like a safety net. I can feel confident in striding out on my own, trying something for the first time, or not even for the first time, just doing something that's normally a habit, and being able to go back at the end of the day and speak with them and say, like, this is the way I went about it today. Like, I don't feel like it went as well as it normally does, and having someone to just go back and forth with and kind of nitpick the procedure is really helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because, does that cost you anything? No, it's free. It might cost you a cup of coffee every once in a while, but for the most part, mentoring is there to help support your growth. And all of us should continue to grow. I didn't challenge you to, by the 4th of July, find a mentor that can mentor you. It doesn't matter where you are within your career, because everybody can benefit from mentoring. Yes, sir.
As leaders, aren't we all mentoring and really not calling it mentoring when we're taking someone who knew nothing about our industry and we're teaching them and teaching them how to be better at their job, better people, make a difference in their life. We're mentoring without knowing we're mentoring.
That's a good point, and I don't disagree with you. All I'm saying is a formal mentoring process that allows you to systematically, in a timely fashion, regularly mentor someone. It's like having a doctor's appointment. Okay, Friday at 3 o'clock we're going to get together. Every second Friday we're going to get together. And we're going to talk about things you need to talk about. In the meantime, while you're out there, you're still doing what you say. You're helping mentor. In fact, you're probably doing some coaching. Yes, sir?
I think one difference, mentoring, you're developing the whole individual, not just the job piece.
Yes. Good point. Yeah. Let's talk about coaching for a second. And now some of you may have not heard, but Randy's got a real problem with his back. So I've got to just take a few seconds and stretch it out here. But we can talk about coaching. And I want to share with you, let's talk about what coaching is and what coaching is not. Who would like to give me a shot? What is coaching? Yes, sir.
Coaching is developing the person or the group that you're in front of, helping them understand what it is that they do. Just like when you practice every day, you repeat your things and you get it instilled in them.
Very good. So what you're saying is coaching is really developing the skills of others. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes, it is.
What else is coaching? Yes, sir.
Making sure the team always is working together,
So-
not against each other.
So coaching is making sure that people are on the same team, striving for the same goals. Yes, sir.
Coaching is also mentoring too.
Say that one more time.
Coaching is also mentoring too.
Yes, of course, yes. Coaching is also, to some degree, mentoring. They're a little bit different, but that's what you're doing when you're coaching. You are mentoring. What else is coaching? Yes, sir.
I guess taking the skills of your team and adapting your plan to that skill set.
Oh, that's an interesting approach, yeah. So they taking their skills and then adapting your approach to their skill set. So if you give us an analogy in football or one of your favorite sports, who would you say would have done that this year? Like Coach Belichick having to adapt to losing a few players and a few injuries, and now you have these skills and you have a different game plan. Yeah. Helpful coaching, I think, is also demonstrating and teaching. You might need to demonstrate or teach somebody how to do something, and I think that's part of coaching. You just can't expect people to be able to know how to do certain things without being taught how to do it. I think coaching is also being supportive and positive. Because people will make mistakes. People will not quite do things right. You said, that's okay. That's all right. We'll get it done. We'll do it again. We'll try it again. You have an alternative. You could say, what the hell are you doing, man? Come on, man. But you don't want to do that. You want to be supportive because you're coaching. And people may not get it the first time. We had an example yesterday in our Play Like a Champion. Do you remember the Super Bowl where Malcolm Butler from the New England Patriots intercepted that pass with less than a couple minutes left in the game to basically win the game and therefore the Super Bowl? And we're talking about preparation and how he had to prepare for that. And if you see the videos of it, you'll see that in practice he could never do it correctly. He couldn't step up. And the coach would say, come on, Malcolm, step up, you can do it, you can do it. And he was being supportive and positive and encouraging him. Practice it, and then finally, boom, in the game, when it really counted, he stepped up and the rest is history. But coaching is all about being positive and supportive. Here's another one that I think is important for us as coaches to remember, that coaching is promoting and ingraining good habits. Would you agree with that? Promoting and ingraining good habits. And then here's another one for you. How about coaching as being patient and providing guidance? Because you can lose patience in somebody who doesn't quite get it the first time. And you know, you've got to coach them through the situation. How about what is coaching is not what? What is coaching not?
Degrading.
Say it again?
Degrading. Coaching is not degrading.
Degrading, thank you. Yeah, coaching is not degrading because that's easy to do. How can you not get this? What's wrong with you? Nobody wants to hear that. Say, it's okay, kid, we'll get her done. What else is coaching not? Give me another one. Anybody? Okay.
Mostly not personal. I mean,
coaching is?
Coaching is more personal, and there's the anti-side of that. Being unempathetic.
Yeah, coaching is not being unempathetic. There's a couple of negatives working together there. Or we could just say coaching is being empathetic. Coaching is not unempathetic. Coaching is not lecturing. This is what you need to do and how you need to do it, and I need you to get it done before such and such a time. If not, we're all going to be in trouble, and you'll be in bigger trouble than me. That's lecturing. Coaching is not lecturing. Coaching is not doing it yourself. Okay, get out of the way, let me do it. Nobody can do it better than me. I can do it myself. I can do it faster. I can do it better. That's not coaching. You probably could do it faster and better yourself because you're more experienced. But that's not coaching if you do it yourself. I was with a bunch of roofers one time at a conference, and somebody, like an audience like this, put his hand up and said, well, Randy, you don't understand. I can do it faster. I can do it better than myself than to get those guys to do it. I said, well, is the problem those guys don't have the capability of doing it? Or is it you don't have the skills to coach them on how to do it? That's where maybe we should work on it. Because how old are you? He said, I'm 35. You want to be doing that when you're 65? No. Well, then let's work on making you a better coach. Because you don't want to be doing things yourself. I never saw any head coach in the NFL on 4th and 1.
Take it up again.
Game on the line. Call a timeout. Strap on a helmet. Get out there and give me the ball. Never seen that happen. That's not what coaches do. They don't do it themselves. They collaborate with their folks. Okay, Randy's not quite getting this. So, you know Randy better than I do, but what's one way we can get Randy to absorb what we're trying to teach him here? So he gets it. So you collaborate with the team. Randy, come over here. How about if we try this instead? Will that work better for you? Yes. That's coaching. And to your point, coaching is not talking down to people or degrading them. Coaching is not telling people what to do. Back to the lecturing. And coaching is not being negative or derogatory. So coaching is an important part of what you do. When you're coaching, you can inspire people. How do you inspire people? There's a couple ways. Let's start with telling stories. Tell them your stories. You have stories to tell folks? When somebody is learning something, doing something, say, you know what, this reminds me that when I started, this is what happened to me, and then this is how I learned, and this is what went on. Tell them a story. I was with this kid the other day, and he said, how do you know all these people? You know, on a podcast or something. I said, well, it's because I've been in this business before you were born. And he said, no. I said, when were you born? I said, yeah, I've been here longer than you were born. So, you know, you tell them the stories about how you get to meet people, how you get involved in associations or a conference like this, and how you became friendly with somebody and how you learned from them. Tell them your stories. Everybody got a great story? What's one of them? Let's talk. Give me a story. I want to hear a good story from somebody about something that changed the way they think or the way they did things. And I see you got a big grin on your face. I can't wait to hear this. Stand up and make sure we can all hear you.
My story is about we supposed to do a new, my department, we do as maintenance, baffles, emergency response. So we start to, the beginners to do as, to help overlay groups to do pay repairs. So we have a little milling machine, we have a payment machine, and we have total torting trucks to help. So I bring one of the group leaders to my office, and I told him, you know what? Come on, I need to meet with you. We go see these videos on the internet to see how to do the milling processing, see how to pay processing, and we did it all this time on the internet. Well, he get up from my office, and he went to talk to the other groups. I made him feel stupid. I made him feel dummy. I offended to him and his possession. So I heard all these rumors from the other employers. Well, we start to pay, we still do the job. A couple of weeks later, he came to my office, and he said, I'm sorry, I got offended. I say, you treat me like a stupid, but I see what you're doing. And made me feel great.
Yeah, and the lesson there is let's not offend people, first of all. But if people make you feel great because they apologize for things they do, then that's awesome. How about telling stories of other people? 1813 is one of my favorite stories for construction people. Tabitha Babbitt. Anybody know that person? Anybody know her? Tabitha Babbitt, 1813. Back in 1813, Tabitha was part of the Shaker community in this country. And as in working in the community, she ran a spinning loom. And she would be on that spinning loom working it all day long. And one day she's looking out the window back in 1813 and she sees Randy and Randy cutting timber. And back in those days, if you have seen pictures or know of it, Randy's got one end of the saw, I got the other, and we're going back and forth like this, aren't we? So here's Tabitha on her spinning loom thinking, boy, that looks like that hard work. I wonder if we could try to make that easier. So Tabitha ends up getting credit for the person that invented the circular saw blade. So why is that important? Why is that an important story? I mean, it's just a small adjustment to what she was doing. And if you want to encourage somebody to become more than they are, and encourage people to be creative, tell them that story. Or tell them a story like that. If you want somebody to be more adventurous, tell them an adventurous story. If you want somebody to be more communicative, tell them a communication story. If you want someone to be more accountable, tell them an accountability story. But if you tell stories, that's part of how you can get people to learn and grow. And that's what you're trying to do. Another way you can get people to learn and grow is to leverage videos. There's a lot of videos out there. TED Talks, values.com, and I'll show you one here in a second. But there's a company, I wasn't working with them, but the gentleman told us at a conference, he said, they have Tuesdays with Ted. Puts his hand up. Tuesdays with Ted. And what Tuesdays with Ted is, every Tuesday he'd get his management team together and they would watch a TED Talks. Something that he previewed, and it would be 15, 20 minutes. They'd do it over lunch. And they would watch the TED Talk video, and then they would talk about it. They would say, how does that apply to us? What did we learn from it? What is it something that we could do differently to make us better because of the TED Talks? So I think it's just a brilliant idea to help your business and help people grow. And there's all kinds of videos. Here's a short one that I got from values.com. I think you might enjoy this.
I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike one. I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike two. I'm the greatest hitter in the world! Strike three. Wow! I'm the greatest pitcher in the world! Optimism. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
If you have somebody in your organization that's maybe not as positive as you'd like them to be, there might be negative Dick or something, this can put a smile on your face. So if you go to the website, it used to be values.com, but I believe it's now passiton.com. They have 60, 70 videos on that website that you can download, it's free, and use those to help inspire your folks. You can also use quotes. Find some quotes that you like. I met with one fellow yesterday who told me he was looking for something. I said, I got some great quotes I'll send you. Alex is not in the room, I don't think, but quotes can get people inspired. You could use those in how you develop people. And of course, there's always pep talks.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Pep talks. Have your own pep talk. Create your own words. Hey, ask not what your team can do for you, ask what you can do for your teammates. Or how about this? Ask what you can do together to better serve those you serve. How about delegation? Who's good at delegation here? Nobody again. Is delegation? You good at delegation?
I think so.
Okay. Well then, challenge me on my 5 steps, which I want to share with everybody. Because I've got 5 keys. They're really not steps. They're 5 keys to successful delegation. Because you want to be developing people, getting them included, giving them projects, giving them tasks, helping them grow. The first one you always have to do is select the right person. What is the right person?
Someone that won't give up on the task that I would give them.
Somebody who won't give up. Somebody who's got the skills. Somebody who's maybe got the time to do it. Somebody who you trust could do it. But probably the most important part that we forget sometimes is the person that you select has to be willing to do it. If you have somebody who's just, okay, yeah, I'll do it, but their heart's not in it, you're not going to get what you need or want. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
The second key is to communicate the relevance and importance of the task. The relevance and importance of the task. So if you give me work to do and I just view it as junk work that you're dumping your stuff on me, and there's really no relevance or importance tied to it, my heart's not going to be in it. But if you said to me, Randy, I need you to do X, Y, Z, because the governor of Pennsylvania is going to come and visit our property. And I want to make sure that our property is perfectly clean. I want to make sure that our equipment is shiny. I want to make sure this is going to, I can count on you to make sure that when the governor comes, that he helps out. And the reason is we're going to get a grant maybe from the governor. Relevance and importance. I made that up, obviously, but but you have to have some relevance or importance for me to embrace it. The third one is make sure you establish a deadline. Who establishes the deadline in your successful model?
Usually our tasks are ongoing, but if it's for, let's say, a paving project, I do. I establish that deadline.
Okay. He establishes the deadline. Yes, sir.
I normally ask him when you think you can get it done, and then if it's too far out from what I want, then we come to a mutual agreement.
That's exactly right. It's more of a collaborative effort. So you give them the task and explain the relevance and importance, and you say, so when do you think you could get this complete? And they say, Monday. And you know you need it Friday. So you say, okay, what has to happen for us to finish this on Friday? Because he's got other stuff on their place, and you say, okay, well, I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that, and now can we get it done for Friday? Oh yeah, if we do that, we'll have it done for Friday. So then you have this agreement to meet the deadline that you want without forcing it on somebody. Because if you force it on somebody, what's going to happen? It won't get done. Because it's your deadline, not theirs. So you do it collaboratively, but you get them to commit to it. Once you commit to it, then you follow up accountability, because now they're accountable for that deadline. And this is a week before the Friday. And you would say, hey Randy, are we still good for Friday? Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm still good for Friday. Hey, well, listen, anything ever, the second you think you're going to be off target, let me know. No problem. Tuesday comes along. Are we still good for Friday? Yes. Quit micromanaging me. So, well, I'm not micromanaging, I'm following up. There's a difference between follow up. Following up is you're just following up. Micromanaging is, show me what you've got. Show me what you've done. No, 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 don't do it that way. Do it this way instead. That would be micromanaging. And then once you finish with that, what you want to do, of course, is have the opportunity to celebrate. Oh, sorry, I missed this thing. Forgot I put this in 2 in the morning. We want to hold them accountable in the follow-up. So here's 4 items you need to hold people accountable with. First of all is you need to communicate reasonable expectations. In this example, Friday's reasonable expectation. Confirm your expectations. We on board for Friday? Yes. Third one, follow up. Make sure, and they have the tools, the resources, what they need to get the job done. And then you just, from there, your coach is required. Maybe not requiring coaching, but it may. And then the last part is all about showing appreciation and recognizing their contribution somehow. Either in a crew meeting or in an office setting. But recognize them. Say, hey guys, the governor's coming. We had to do all this cleanup. And I asked Randy to do it, and Randy did an outstanding job. And because he did, we ended up with the grant. And thank you, Randy. Appreciate your help. Big round of applause for Randy. Okay. Now let's go to number 5, invest in self-development. And the reason I say you want to invest in self-development is because you may be the owner of a company that's very profitable. You may be. You may have had a good year. You might have had a great quarter. You might have had a great team today. But the worst thing you can do is just sit back and say, I've made it. I say never think you've made it. You've got to continuously learn and grow. And I'm going to give you a 5-step self-development plan that you could take home with you and you can share it with others. So once you start thinking you've made it, that's when you start to lose. We didn't talk about this yesterday in the Play Like a Champion, but Super Bowl, Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots, 28-3. My gosh. They kind of put it on, let's coast a little bit. And next thing you know, they lose the game. Never think you've made it. I say leadership and learning are indispensable to each other, John F. Kennedy. And that's something I like to preach, is leadership and learning are indispensable. If you want to lead people, you've got to continue to learn and get better yourself. That's why I say you got to invest in your personal development. The very fact that you're here in this conference is a good indication that you take this very serious yourself, so good for you. 5-step leadership development plan. First step is you got to commit time for professional development. I mean, how much time do you commit to professional development? You know, some say, well, I do it when I can. But I'm saying, set yourself a goal. If you look at a calendar like this, look at this chart. Just look at the top left-hand side. 3 times a week for a half hour per day, on average, 3 times a week. So that's what, an hour and a half a week? Every week of the year, 78, you end up with 78 hours, or equivalent of almost 10 days of 8-hour days that get you to do this. Well, that's not very good, I don't think. Let's do this. 3 hours a week, 156 hours, 19.5 days per year. 5 hours per week, 260 hours, 32 days. This is where I want you to be. Just think about that. If you could commit 5 hours a week, 7-day week, just commit to self-development, regardless of how you do it, you get a whole month of 8-hour days of training. That's how you become really exceptional. And I just say, you know, depending on what you do and how you do it, try to commit 10% of your time to it. The second part that I think is real important is you got to determine the areas you want improvement in. There's so many different areas you could focus on. Communication, delegation, just so many. Just what do you need? Identify what you need. So how do you do that? How about if we say, look, let's look at some bad habits, because I don't want to destroy my credibility. What are some of my bad habits? Well, I'm a micromanager. Well, that's a bad habit. How do I get better at not being a micromanager? Well, how about if I was a procrastinator? Well, because Randy says procrastination is a slow death poison. It's a bad habit to be into. You know, what other credibility killers do you have? A bad habit. You know, showing up late yourself, maybe not, you know, doing what you say you'll do. Those are credibility killers. Figure out what you need to work on, and then there's so many opportunities to work on them. You've got, here's a dozen for you. You have workshops, seminars, and you get all kinds of different audio things that you can work on. Podcasts, CDs, MP3s while you're driving to job sites. Which of those can help you with what you need? Maybe none of them. You know, how many of you listen to podcasts today? Just a few. For those that aren't, and you've got time driving, podcasts are awesome. They're free, and you can learn so much. So if you wanted to learn more about being something to do with personal productivity or time management or hunting or fishing, it doesn't really matter. There's so much great free information on podcasts that can really help you. There's also some educational stuff and entertainment. What are you smiling about?
I listen to Making a Murderer.
Oh, okay.
So mine's definitely not.
Okay. Good. There's entertainment too. So leadership and learning is a podcast that I have, and you know, as an example. There's video sources. There's you can read. You can find a mentor. The CEO I work with said he likes to read the Wall Street Journal, and what he looks for is mistakes other people make, so that he doesn't have to experience their pain. I mean, how brilliant is that? Let's learn from other people's mistakes. That's why he reads. He looks for things that will help him keep him out of trouble. There's a coach. You can find a coach. You can do role play. We did a role play yesterday. Absolutely fantastic. Michael did a great job for those who were there, didn't he? And role playing is something that everybody hates to do. But role playing is the most cost-effective, most effective way to learn, in my opinion. And then you've got blogs, e-news, and webinars. Just be careful of all those, because some of them cost you money and some aren't as effective as they could be. I do a leadership tip of the week. I have been doing it now for 9 full years. Every week a leadership tip from Randy, 250 words. It's free. If you need it or want it, you can go to our website, sign up and get it. And if you did sign up and get it, I think you can automatically download a year's inventory of them. Point is, choose something that's going to work for you to help you work on the areas that you need to work on. Then stay prioritized, disciplined, and focused. Create yourself a little IDP plan, what you're going to improve on, how you're going to improve on it. And then step back and look at it every 90 days and say, how are you doing? Are you accomplishing what you set out to accomplish? Are you able to say that you're working towards improvement. Okay. How about we do a quick coach's corner? We've got a few minutes got some time to answer questions that may be specific to you. Something I've covered here that you need more information on, better clarity, or a challenge that you have that you want to talk about. Yes, sir.
When you were talking about communication, we have challenges in figuring out how to communicate and what methods. You know, you have texting, you have voicemail, you have email, and it's just like you get all of this stuff coming at you from different directions. Have you ever had that discussed in your?
Yeah, I have had that discussed many times, sometimes at home even. Because communication at home is probably the most challenging. My thought on it is very simple, and that is, you know the saying of treat people the way you like to be treated? I say communicate with people the way they like to be communicated to. So if I insist on having a phone call with my son, as an example, but his preferred way to communicate is texting, I respect that and I text him. When we need to talk, I'll text him, call me, we need to talk. When it comes to business, we get carried away with the communication on the email. And I think that email is also a slow death poison, because you can get buried in it like quicksand. And what you have to do, depending on your organization, is to figure out what works better than email. How about person-to-person communication? Pick up the phone, if it's a phone call, or go into someone's office without interrupting them, and make sure that you have your point across. Some emails are necessary to communicate to a number of people at the same time. But so is broadcast voicemail, where you can send a voicemail message to everybody at the same time. You don't need to do an email. When I was running a $750 million business unit, we had 2,000 employees and say 30 managers, or whatever the number was at the time. I would do a broadcast voicemail message on an update of some issue. So, okay, everybody, this is Randy. Happy Monday morning. Here's what's going on with such and such, and here's what you can expect next. And y'all have a great day, work safe, and all that stuff. And boom, 33 people get that message. But it's not an email, it's a verbal. Because I believe that people would listen to that versus read it. Because it would be something that is a voicemail message versus one of another 100 emails that may be in their system. So think about what works for who you're communicating to the best, and try to fit in there. If there's some very, very specific challenges with people who don't reply to email or don't, that happens. But you're exactly right. We could be bombarded, but it's up to us to figure out how that can waste our time or how it can be less effective. I don't know. Does anybody else have a suggestion on how we could kind of corral this whole issue of all the various ways we could communicate?
With email and text, it gets kind of touchy because you know what you want to say, and when you email and it's in a written form like that, the other person is interpreting your tone in their head. So it seems to be a good way to communicate things that are stark facts, or things that need to be accomplished, that they don't have to think, what does he mean? And if they do, you're better off saying, call me when you get a chance if you text them, so we can go over something, because it's, there's tone in the way we speak, and when we do something written, there is no tone.
No, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing it up. I think that we all can learn to, and have had experiences, I should say, with interpreting a message the wrong way. And that just stirs us in a way that we don't really need to be stirred. But I'm all about, interacting still. I'm old school, maybe. I like to talk to people. But I'm also respectful of some people who don't want to do that. Some people like to communicate on Facebook, and that's their choice. I try not to do that, but for business purposes, but there's a lot of communication goes on Facebook. Never get on one of those strings of something, somebody's one of 30 people, hey, what do you think about this? And you're one of 30 people. My God, that's a time killer. Delete me. I can't delete. I need to delete this. Another question or thought about today? Yes, sir. Procrastinators, yeah.
Right. Well, I think procrastination will cause a domino effect in the workforce.
How so?
Well, once you start procrastinating, things start to go downward. Because once they don't believe in you, then that's when the problem starts.
It's a credibility killer for sure. And I think it does filter down, just like if it was positive, there's a ripple effect in business. Procrastination, I said up here, is a slow death poison, and I believe it to be true because I've seen it with people who I've worked with. They just can't help themselves. They can't make a decision. On my podcast, I interviewed this guy who runs a chain of retail lumber dealers, and he talks about procrastination. And he said, be the leader who makes a decision. Don't say, let me think about it, I'll get back to you, and then never make a decision. Be the leader who makes a decision, whether you're right or wrong, because people will respect you more, even if your decision was the wrong decision versus no decision. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's what he said. And I believe in it. I said, okay, I'll mess up. No one's perfect. You make a mistake, you fix it. Make sure it doesn't happen again and move on. But the reality is, to be not making a decision, that's a killer of your credibility and your leadership. Any procrastinators here?
Yes.
Oh, I see we'll have to have a workshop on procrastination. We could sell tickets for that one.
I have a great book on procrastination.
You what?
I have a great book on procrastination.
Oh good, what's your book?
I've yet to read it. And that's how it is.
I better sell these tickets in advance. You may not show up.
We'll have to think about it.
Maybe if you sell them after the show.
Yeah, that's a great line. I have to it's like, I wanted to improve my productivity, and I decided to take a time management course. Well, how's it going? Well, I haven't had time to do it just yet, so same thing. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, I hope that you picked up a nugget or two from this session. I think that it's been a great, quick 90 minutes. I do hope you picked up a nugget or two, and I thank you for being here. And for those that have been here 3 times, I thank you, and I hope we get to know you a little bit more as time goes on. So enjoy the rest of the conference, and have a great day.